man. Hey guys, I am Joe Fink, and this is my buddy, Mr. Dustin Blocker.
Hey,
We're with
hey.
Hand Drawn Records and Hand Drawn Pressing out of Addison, Texas. And we have possibly the coolest job in the world.
Absolutely.
And I thought I had the coolest job in the world for a long time. Just a little background on myself, man. I'm a musician. I started playing drums when I was very, very young, and it was all about seeing Buddy Rich on The Tonight Show. Lost my mind, and I'm like, I want to do that. So I started learning how to play drums, figured that all out, and I just started sucking up all kinds of music that I could get. I have 7 brothers and sisters, and I was growing up in the 70s, so in my house there was everything from, Andy Gibb and the Bee Gees to Black Sabbath, and my dad's listening to Floyd Kramer and stuff, George Jones, and I mean, it's just crazy music that was all around all the time. So I was a musician for a really long time, and then I started doing DJ stuff and playing in bands, and when I decided I was going to get a real job, I decided I wanted to do radio. And why? Because all I'd done was listen to radio all my life. So I played with all kinds of music there. And now I've moved on from the radio thing, which I thought was possibly the coolest job in the world, to actually being production manager of a vinyl record manufacturing facility located right in Addison, Texas. And it's amazing what we do because we get to make people's dreams come true every day. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And thanks for the background. It's so cool.
So that's just
brothers
a little
and
bit.
sisters.
I have 7 brothers and sisters. Yeah.
And where are you in the
6
pecking
brothers
order?
and sisters. I'm next to the youngest.
Woo!
Yeah.
I'm the youngest.
I'm by far the coolest.
So they left you alone. Like your parents were like, it's all good.
Oh yeah,
right?
I had so much of a free reign to go and do whatever I wanted to do, that was the best part about being the next to the youngest. But growing up, moving through this, and trying to find my way, music was always something that led me along the path, and it led me to here and to Hand Drawn Pressing. And what we do every day, like I said, making people's dreams come true. We could take our product, which is, vinyl records, and we take it from a little tiny piece of plastic to what you see retail ready in the store.
A large piece of plastic.
Yeah. And that thing you can drop the needle on and have that relationship with, and do all kinds of other stuff with the record jackets. And it's a great thing to do. We have the coolest job ever.
That's
and
awesome.
We're going to talk about that. That's what this is all about. Our little intro into something to do because it's COVID crazy outside. You know what I mean? I mean, all we have is
we can't go outside.
We can't do anything.
Here. We're about 6 feet apart.
We're trying to be.
On TV, it looks like we're 4 feet, which is the TV is the internet.
Right.
And in real life, we're 8 feet apart.
And if you watch on your phone this way, we're that far apart. So it's good. Dustin, how did you decide that you were going to be a part of making records and making people's dreams come true? How did it happen for you?
So I was also born in the 70s, at the end of the 70s.
Yeah, you're younger than me, I understand.
So we didn't really have vinyl records. We had 8-track, right? So we'd have the 8-track in the station wagon going down the road. 4 brothers. Well, 3 brothers and sisters. I'm the 4th. I'm the youngest. So my parents left me alone. So if I was a 7, I imagine they'd really leave you alone.
Totally left alone.
But yeah, music was a massive part. My whole family is full of singers. So my dad was a music minister for 30 some odd years in a Baptist church down in San Angelo. My mom was a music teacher. All my brothers and sisters sing. And I was telling my son, who's 9 years old, I was talking about singing. And I think when I was 6 was the first time we performed on a large stage together we were singing as a Von Trapp family. From The Sound of Music.
Oh, goody.
Singing Doe a Deer, Female Deer, Ray drop a,
Feel free to sing along at home.
Yes. Yeah. And so really, as I got older, I didn't really play any instruments, but I always sang and I played sports. And when I got into middle school, I was in the choir, and then I was like, that's not cool. I don't want to sing anymore. And then I didn't do it through high school. And then at the tail end of college, my buddy of mine was playing acoustic guitar, and I always had a low voice, and started a little band. It was called Exit 380, and this backdrop that I pulled out of my garage today
Smells like a swimming pool.
Smells like a swimming pool. It's been in a box it smells like camping gear to me that's been sitting in a wet box for 2 years.
Might be covered in COVID, who knows?
Yeah.
Yes. Who knows?
But I was in a singer in a band for 17 years, and it started off as like a cover band kind of thing, and then we turned into, I would call, a real original band. Recorded a bunch of records. I think we finished at 7 or 8 full-length records and a handful of EPs. And a few years ago, stopped playing. 2011, I started the label, Hand Drawn Records. And then 2014, got my business partner, Alex Cush, and I, we started this part of the business, which is called Hand Drawn Pressing. and yeah, we press records. But I always think musicians are just solving problems. So finding a way to get into the industry to be able to you know, feed the family and do something besides staying on the road. My journey, yours was radio DJing. Mine was kind of the corporate world, and then I wanted to use that to bring an end to independent music, and started up the pressing side to really do exciting things with artists that we typically wouldn't be in the same room with, or even talk to their management groups or labels. So yeah, so we get to work with amazing artists daily, press records that are unreal. We don't even really talk about that because it's not our records, but
right.
So we don't really talk about it on social media. We try to respect the artist or the client. It's their project. They need to talk about it first, and if they happen to say, hey, Hand Drawn did it, then we'll repost it or talk about it. But we do some amazing stuff here, and we have amazing people here that work on it with us daily.
Well, the cool part is you were like, we need to figure out a way to communicate with people during the COVID nonsense that's going on. I call it nonsense, but I mean, it's really not. It's something that we should totally take seriously.
Very
But
serious, yeah.
we're trying to find a way that we're all lost right now, man. We've never had to deal with this kind of stuff before. So you came up with the idea, well, all these musicians and everyone else is doing these live streams. Let's come up with something that we can talk to the people to tell them not only what we do, but how cool it is to be involved in the vinyl industry and making of records itself.
In general, absolutely.
And all the steps that go through the exact supply chain that we have, whether it's guys that actually cut and plate, or to producers who are bringing in bands and musicians and actually creating the music, or to, you know, the guys that make the jackets, the guys that make the plastics.
That's
I mean,
right.
There's a whole lot that goes into making a vinyl record, and that's what we want to do with this thing, is basically kind of show you guys what it takes to make a record, and what the process is like, and introduce you to a lot of cool people along the way.
Yeah. So this is this first episode is just kind of intro to the whole
just to
concept.
figure it out how it works.
But yeah, video chatting.
Yeah.
And if the video doesn't work, we'll just use the old phone.
Yeah, we can do a phone link up. We have some of the most talented people on staff right now. You guys can't see the other side over there.
Yeah.
But Mr. Rain's over there, Jordan's over there, and they have brought all their toys from home. I'm surprised we don't have a whole stack of D&D characters over there as well. But
that'll be the props for next week.
In the other backpack by Jordan, man. They had all the stuff. We're like, we want to do this, and like, oh, we can do that.
Absolutely,
they're making it happen.
Problem solvers, right?
Total problem solvers.
And these guys, guess what? They're musicians. Weird.
Yep.
So Hand Drawn Pressing, we have musicians that work for us, and those musicians do all kinds of awesome stuff. So Rain does photography on the side, right? And or maybe not even on the side. That's probably his main gig.
He makes
right?
records on the side.
He makes records on the side. He does photography on the full. And then, of course, Jordan, who went to school for all this great stuff. So he really knows what he's doing. And I just go, thank you.
Yeah.
Because I have no clue what
It's
I'm
really
doing.
nice to be able to come in here and have it all just go ahead and work, man. But So moving forward, we're going to try to educate you guys a little bit about the process of making vinyl records, what goes into making a vinyl record, and introduce you to the people and the players that actually make these vinyl records happen. And I'm going to ask some questions along the way. We're going to let you know a little bit about each one of the people that are coming along. And let's pretend like you're our first guest. Or Dustin, you are the first guest.
Before we get to that, before we get to that, I want to talk just real quickly, because you alluded to it. So it's actually an association. There's just some conferences that happen every year the last couple of years called Making Vinyl, which have been great. They happen in Detroit for a couple of years, and they happen in LA and Hollywood, actually. In 2019, and it was really good. It's kind of the supply chain you're talking about, but also vinyl enthusiasts, lots of music, high-end music people, and people that supply even the customers. So people that, you know, stuff that can clean your records, and all the way down the chain, right? So you have all the makers in the room, but then you have all the people that do all the auxiliary equipment as well, that all kind of feed vinyl. So that's part of making vinyl. What we thought was remiss, though, in the last conference, really, and so it was great. It was over a couple days. What we thought was remiss was more on kind of the maker's end, kind of dialing in a little bit deeper on the actual supply chain, what it really takes to make a record. What are the issues with communicating with clients daily? What are the issues internally within each company? Kind of the pain points, you could say, that each company has. That on making records is very, very difficult to make a good vinyl record. Even if you have the greatest equipment in the world, it's all about the people. So you said it earlier, there's a lot of steps to it. Somebody quantified it. I think it was Yoli at Welcome 1979 in Nashville, who they run a studio, and it's also cutting and plating. which directly ties to us. And when she was looking at it, I think they said it was 130 to 150 steps it takes to make each record. And within those steps, there's a couple dozen people physically that are within those steps to bring a record from the beginning to the end. So, we know those because it's our day-to-day operation to know where there could be an issue and why this disc had this problem and these were perfect and why did that happen. And we are just really here as a solution to make it very easy to get a record at the end of the day. You're on tour. You're worried about merch sales. You're worried about booking the show. You're worried about your bass player waking up in time to head to practice. You don't need to make vinyl another massive headache. And so really when we started hand-drawn pressing, Alex and I, that was a big part. Like, we got to solve a problem. That's what all companies should do, right? So the problem was pretty inherent. Like, vinyl is very, very complicated. Nobody knows how to get it. There's not that many people in the world that know how to make it. And currently there's only 30-plus companies in the entire world, meaning there's only a few hundred people in the entire world that do what we do.
Right.
And we only know a pretty good amount of them. And so after that conference, kind of long story into longer story, after that conference, we started something else called the Vinyl Record Manufacturing Association, a very clinical name, really, of North America. So what we want to do is focus on the North American side of the business and who everybody in that supply chain you're talking about, and that we'll be talking to in future episodes, different people. But who are they, what do they do, and why do they do what they do?
Correct.
And so that sets you up to then, I guess, ask me questions.
Right. So
Okay.
we're going to educate you, like you said, on not only the entire process, but the people behind the process. And so I came up with my intelligence right off the top of my own brilliant mind, 5 questions, right? We're going to ask everybody same 5 questions.
And
Dustin.
they're up on the screen, right?
Yeah. They're
Tonight's show.
Right here. You guys can see them all. Dustin, what was your first record?
Woo! Does it have to be a vinyl record?
Yeah, your first record that you remember getting and like just putting the
needle down.
Loving it. You know what I mean? Because you have to love records.
Yeah. I was actually in my 30s, and I lived in Dallas at the time when I touched my first record that I owned.
Yeah.
Right. My mom and dad owned a lot of records.
Yeah, either that or.
And then when I started finding music, it was CD.
Yeah.
Right. That was the '90s. That was Pearl Jam and Nirvana and everybody. So the first record I remember was physically mine. I bought Led Zeppelin 2, and I'd already been listening to Led Zeppelin digitally and on CD, forever, and just hearing the difference. And I think the biggest one was just hearing the tremolo on the guitar.
Wow.
And ba 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 ba, and I was like, oh, that's why everybody uses that guitar tone. I literally played in a band for, at that point, over a decade, way over a decade. And I remember the guitarists were always so excited about their tones, and I was like, who cares, But when I heard that record, oddly, again, I'd already been doing it for a long time, that was the first time it really hit me like, oh, guitar tone matters. Hearing a vinyl record of a recording from the early 70s.
Led Zeppelin 2.
Led Zeppelin 2.
Led Zeppelin 2. All right, quick, dog or cat?
Dog.
All
and
the
we have a
way.
cat, and it's okay.
So this is coming from our technical crew. They wanted me to ask this question because I had a different idea here, which just shows my age. But this is from these guys: NSYNC or Backstreet Boys?
Oh, which one? Which one is Timberlake?
So you're asking the wrong dude.
Timberlake's an NSYNC guy, and I tell you what, I wasn't a fan of him really. But he had that really good song in that Trolls movie, which I watched with my kids.
There you go.
And I was like, Dance, Dance, Dance. This is pretty good.
It's
pretty good.
So one vote for
by default, the band that he was in.
NSYNC. All right,
okay,
gotcha.
NSYNC. Okay.
So where did you grow up?
I grew up. I was born in Fort Worth, but from 1 to 10, I was in San Angelo, Texas. And that was, I said it earlier, my dad was a music minister out there in San Angelo, Texas. And we grew up 8 acres, kind of away from everybody. There was no other kids. So it was just the family hanging out, and that's probably why I sing so much, that everybody just staying around and sing. You had like 2 channels. We had a big satellite outside that you had to crank.
A crank
to get
satellite?
a channel.
That's a thing?
So there's really no TV.
Awesome.
We had a trampoline. We had an outdoor swimming pool, and we had a piano. So everybody would hang out, sing, and I don't know what else I did. I drew a lot.
Nice.
And then when I was 10, I moved to Fort Worth, and Fort Worth all the way through high school, graduated at Castleberry in Fort Worth, and then moved up to Denton, to North Texas for college. And then after that it was Fort Worth and then Dallas, and Now I live in Granbury, Texas.
So you're a Texas guy all the way
Never
through.
moved from Texas.
Really? That's
Even with my Texas draw, I don't know if you can tell.
No, you don't have a bad one. No, you're pretty good. No, y'all's fine.
Yeah.
With being in Texas your entire life, I mean, Texas is its own country kind of thing. You know,
Absolutely.
people seem to think that way. What was it that finally made you said you started off, you know, with your dad and his ministry, and then you started playing music, and then you went into that retail space, right?
Yeah.
What made you finally decide that, you know what, I'm going to put all my efforts and all my passions into, you know, making other people's passions come true? So.
Yeah, that's funny. So really, I always spent all my time doing it. I just had other jobs, right? So it was always about music. So my wife used to get on to me all the time. She didn't get on to me as much anymore because it's a day-to-day job, right? As opposed to me just, I got to go sing again, or I'm going to go to practice, 4 hours, 6 hour practice, whatever was going on back then.
Go to the studio and it's some guy's garage with carpet on the walls.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I got you.
And play, 5 gigs in a row for, a max of $40 total.
For sure.
But yeah, it was always about, it was always the passion of music's been there since I was young, I guess. And when I was performing, it was all about me. And as I got older, what I really understood it should be about others. And I think what we do now, that's the waking up every day and wanting to do it better and be your best self in that day is really, it should be not about you. And so the older I've gotten and the more that, really you get humbled by your own kids, honestly, about not making everything about yourself. That really pours out hopefully in other areas, and that's really what's happened here with music. So I love all the projects that come through, and it's personally, I'm like, oh, I really want to hear that record we made today. But at the end of the day, it's how do we deliver a great record, a great product from the end of, from the very beginning all the way through the end of the process for them. And it takes a while. It's a relationship with the customers.
Right.
It's 10 weeks usually, 8 to 10 weeks. But really, how do you do something that they're going to be happy about, and they not only just want to use you again to buy stuff from, but really, hey, those guys in Texas or those guys at Hand Drawn are great, and we want to use them again, and hey, you should use them too, and that's how it should be. So we don't do really any marketing. We don't buy ads on Google. We don't place ads in newspapers or whatever. It's literally word of mouth, and we love it like that because that means that everybody that makes the record is really doing it the right way and pouring their heart and soul into it. And so I hope I set the example when, day to day to make that happen.
Dustin Blocker, man, telling you a little bit more about himself. So we're going to try to do this. We kind of set it up weekly. I don't know if we'll be able to pull that off.
We'll just put the times on Facebook.
But we'll let you guys know when we're going to do something, when we're going to make it happen. I want to bring in this. This is our Puck of the Week.
Nice.
I don't know if you guys can see that.
Looks like that. That's a squash.
But it turns into a record right there, man. So,
magic. It magically turns into one.
But we thought we'd go with the standard black, man, and good to go because without a puck you can't make the record, right? So that's our Puck of the Week this week. You tune in next time so you can see your next puck. I don't know where we're going to go to or who we're going to talk to next, but our goal is to keep you guys informed, keep you learning on what it takes to make a record and how cool it is to work in the vinyl industry. I'm Joe Fink.
I'm Dustin Blocker.
And we'll see you next time we see you. Thanks.
Thumbs up.
Way to go, guys.